webinar today, we are going to cover both aspects of our product. One, which is around Ignite UI and App Builder together, and what we are adding in terms of the platform. And then we're going to transition to Constantine, and he would going to talk more about what we are doing for the developer productivity on the Ignite UI side of things. But with that in mind, the certain things I want to cover today are some improvements and quality of life features we have added to App Builder as a product. And we're going to talk about AI. I mean, who doesn't want to talk about AI? But we're going to show you what kind of challenges we are trying to overcome and what the current experience is like for AI. And those are the two big pillars I'm going to be touching on for today's webinar topic, right? So with that in mind, I'm just going to share my screen here. And you should be seeing my screen today. And for those of you who are completely unaware of what App Builder is and what Ignite UI does for our community, just be aware that Ignite UI is we provide native components for these modern data-rich web apps, right? Which include all across the web stack, starting with Angular, React, Blazor, and web components. So the things we offer are these really data intensive and powerful components, which have these benefits built into it, which is something which also kind of differentiates us from other AI solutions. Because you will realize that when I talk about AI inside of App Builder, it is leveraging everything we provide as a component library. So you get the components, you've got theming options, the ability to have localized, and also having this transparency on GitHub as to how the product is actually evolving purely from a developer product perspective. But then we transition into App Builder, like where these two things connect is that App Builder is a visual builder for single page web apps. But the point of contact between Ignite UI and an App Builder is all the components which we are so proud of on the developer side. Those are the very same components we are bringing inside the toolbox inside of App Builder. So when you are using App Builder to design your front end or your applications, you're actually using these kind of robust platform grade or production grade components in your applications. And the App Builder story kind of continues with the other part is that in App Builder, once you're inside of App Builder, you have all the capabilities to do the similar things as being able to create views, add components in the toolbox, connect to OpenAPI, REST API data sources so that you're actually working with real dynamic data. And then we also support all the state and context features to allow you to do data binding, navigation, routing, all of those things you're getting through App Builder. And of course, AI is also exposed via App Builder. But for us, for people who are not familiar, we don't end the journey inside of App Builder because you're not held hostage to the fact that your designs are stuck inside of App Builder. We are actually allowing you to make pull requests and make a commit to a repo, whether it be GitHub or Azure DevOps, which means that you can, as a developer, clone this repo in your IDE and then continue building your application as if you had done this with a CLI, right? So with that benefit, you actually get to see what the application looks like. You can share it with stakeholders, and then you can actually continue the journey in your developer tool. And because these are production components, it all comes with the documentation which developers are expecting in building that application. That's it. Those are the only 3 slides I have just to level set what Ignite UI and App Builder can do for your solution building effort, right? So with that, I'm going to switch to App Builder here. And what I wanted to show you is some quality of life features which we added inside of App Builder. If you only participated in 25.1, which was our previous release webinar, since then, we are constantly adding new functionality inside of App Builder. And if you are somebody who's regularly visiting App Builder, anytime you come in here and say about App Builder, checking what's new will give you a bird's eye view as to what is actually coming inside of App Builder over time. And then you can, of course, click on the release history to see what we have done in the past. So one new thing we're adding inside App Builder, we are updating one of our sample applications. And sample applications are a great place to start if you're just not familiar with what App Builder can do for you. Because our real solution is that anytime you actually create an app inside of App Builder, you can actually run the preview, see how the application looks and behaves inside the app builder shell, and you can actually see the code it ends up generating. And as I mentioned before, we are targeting all the popular web stacks. And for us, we are generating this code live based on whichever view you're on. So if I go to a different view and it's using a very sophisticated component like our grid, you can see the code being generated on the fly. So you are able to attest whether the code we generate is clean or not. And this is going to be the cornerstone for our AI effort, for our design to code effort, is that we are really focusing on striving to give you the cleanest code possible. So here you're seeing a code for Angular. Of course, as I said, the other web platforms. So if I switch to React, you can see the code is generated now for React, and it's generating all the files you would need in order for you to download this or publish to a GitHub repo and clone, and then compile and run. And our value proposition is that whatever you see in this preview experience is exactly the same experience we're going to give you even after you compile the application. So there are no design inconsistencies between the two. So the thing about the CRM app is that we added the ability to add multiple actions based on an interaction, right? This was something which we released when we announced in our last 25.1 webinar. But the difference now is that if I go to any particular view, and this is the concept of the single page app. So you can see that this is like the Chrome of the application, and it has something what we call a views container. You can think about it as a router outlet. And inside that, we actually have created separate views which are being kind of injected. We have refreshed this particular CRM application just to show off, that you can actually build out both very data-rich dynamic scenarios and also very colorful and impressive looking UI, so that it looks really polished when you're actually presenting it to someone. And the fact that everything is styled in a global way and you're not actually managing styles individually for these things. But the real value add we added this time around is, of course, about this ability for us to detect when a data source or the API which we're using in the app was changing. This is going to revise over time, but at least now we're actually showing you that these data sources have updated, and you can actually update your app, and it'll take care of every little binding and mappings which were done without you having to go and fix this manually. But the real benefit we have added now is if I trigger this new customer dialog, just give me 1 second. Press this. So now you know that we support forms, and the way we support forms is in order for you to create a form, all you had to do was go to the data source you're working with. You find the particular endpoint. So for example, if I want to create a form for a post to employees, I just drag and drop this endpoint and we generate this form for you. And in the past, what we had done is that we had allowed you to create multiple actions based on a certain event. But with this release, we are also allowing you the ability to create these kind of if-else structures. So you can do conditional actions based on a certain event. And I've been able to benefit from that in order to show you what this structure looks like today. Is in this new sample app, you can see that there is an on submit on the form as a whole, and it's automatically going to post to customers, and it's picking this up from this on submit property here. So if I change this property, it's going to change where it's going to go. And under interactions, now I have set a bunch of interesting new actions. So for example, when the API success returns as true, and you can set multiple conditions in here also, you can actually say that I want to set a certain variable to a certain value. I want to run a component action. In this case, I'm resetting the form when the submission is successful. And then I'm closing this dialog. And of course, I'm going to show a snack bar, which shows successful or not. So this kind of gives you the ability to add this kind of conditional actions on top of what you're working on. Of course, I can go in and add more nested conditions inside of this conditional actions, and I can set up new conditions. And depending on how your application requires it, we are now supporting these kind of nested conditional actions, which was not possible before. We also added some benefits, some small improvements to components like the grid, and I've utilized that in this sample, which is why I'm talking about this sample more today, is that now if I go to one of my views, which has a couple of grids on the page, and the way this page works is when some grid is selected, the first grid is selected, which is just showing you a list of orders. I have a secondary grid here, which is displaying the order details. Now, what we have allowed now is that this secondary grid, if I look at the design for the grid, we have introduced these additional new templates for the grid. And the one I'm talking about is an empty template. And the empty template is useful is now you can provide more user-friendly language or different kind of content when you have no records to show. So for example, if I go into this grid here, let me just close this code view panel. So you can see that I can click on mail, air cargo, and all of these have orders. So you're able to see that information. But if I find an order which does not have anything, now I'm able to show a nicer message which is saying no order details available. And this is provided with the master detail kind of a grid scenario. So I talked about conditional actions. I talked about this new CRM app, which allows you to try out what these conditional actions would look like in a realistic scenario. But we have also made a lot of small tweaks to how your app is in sync with the API. And this could be in regards to the validation logic, which your forms might demand. So for example, if you change your API and you added a new field, which is now required, you don't actually have to go and update your forms manually. We take care of that. We automatically update those form fields to make sure that it actually now reflects the new validation logic for this particular application. So if I go back to my customers view, I pull up this dialog, and you may have already seen this in previous webinars, is that now you can see every time I click on this company name as one of my fields, you can see that it's pulling the validation information directly from the spec, and it always stays in sync. So if I change my validate, just for the sake of it, I change it to a different one, say customer ID, the validation logic, if it doesn't exist, it's cleared out, and you can actually add your own validation logic on top of this. So that pretty much gives you a sense of what is coming inside of App Builder. Now, let's just pivot to this discussion on AI. And the AI discussion is interesting because, as you know, AI can be very powerful and unpredictable at the same time. And that's what we are trying to fine tune. And when you also test it, I would encourage you to give us that feedback so that we can fine tune it for your requirements. The difference between how App Builder had typically exposed AI and what we are doing today is that in the past, we had actually tackled AI in baby steps. So we had this little button here, which allowed you to kind of say that, hey, what do you want to create? Do you want to create a view? Do you want to create an image? Or do you want to generate data? Now, this is great for quick purposes. So I can actually say generate data for stock prices for 30 days. And I can say 50 records or whatever. And it'll try to go ahead and come up with this mock data, and then it'll allow you to save this as a data source inside of App Builder, and then you can use it from that point onwards, right? So this is data generation. Image generation works the same way. I ask it for an image, it'll generate that image. But what we are pivoting away and doing is what you are expecting for these kind of AI tools, how they are supposed to interplay with these kind of visual builders, is we are trying to make this conversational. And that is the biggest change you're going to find. And you might have received emails from us asking you or informing you about our preview environment, because that is the place where we are really testing heavily in terms of how this whole concept is actually working out. So for that in mind, let me just show you what the AI story looks like today. And I'm just trying to look through my notes here to grab a script so that I can actually show you what this experience looks like. So I got my prompt, but let's switch to my preview here. So when you come into App Builder, by default, there is nothing new. Everything looks like the normal thing, but we are now pushing out the AI capabilities front and center, right? So by initially, we had the concept of, hey, you want to create a new application. get started with a sample app, or you can get started with a template. But now we have this new generate with AI. And we are trying to give you these inspirational prompts. You can actually try any of these inspirational prompts with AI, or you can actually add your own prompt, right? So what this means is that you can actually start app generation, not just view generation, right from the create new application dialog by providing a prompt. And we also support the ability for you to upload an image as one of the sources of this design, and we will use that image as part of the generation process. And of course, for the ones, if AI was not making us lazy enough, we definitely have a microphone support now, so you can actually narrate as rich as you need to explain what the application is supposed to do. So let me show you an example of how most people might test AI in any new tool. And I would recommend you to spend a little bit more energy in your prompt to make it better. So for example, I am going to create a habit tracking app, right? So of course I can come to the prompt and say, generate a habit tracking app. And I can totally put all my trust in AI. But as you have tried with AI, the more you give it, the more it'll give back to you. So that's what I'm going to do. But it's not like a 5-page project brief. I'm going to give it something much more simpler, and I'll show you what I wrote. So I said, create a habit tracking app, and it just says for users to track consistency in maintaining habits. I said simple things like include a view like a dashboard. I need the ability to set an progress and edit habits and generate a modern theme, to match the app concept. So I said calm, modern theme. That's it. I'm not saying that I went overboard with my prompt, but I'm going to start with this. And when I hit generate, what it's trying to do is trying to infer your prompt. It's going to improve your prompt behind the scenes. And this is the sum of the fine tuning we are doing, is because we know that this AI is being used in an app building concept. So we like to enrich it with information which app builder would benefit from. But this is something which we are doing with testing and trialing and erroring this approach. But this process looks slow because we are all watching it. Roughly for generating this entire application, it ends up taking, I would say, anywhere between 1 minute or 2 minutes, right? So depending on, as you know, a myriad of reasons why sometimes it might feel a little slow, but it'll start get going pretty soon. And then we're going to do something more interesting on top of this. So just bear with me. There's no, Constantine was joking in another presentation that there's no elevator music to play, but it's doing it. It's doing something behind the scenes. It's creating the application. And sometimes it gives me some unpredictable kind of results, but that's okay, because that's where the iterative prompting or the conversation style I talked about will actually kick in. But hey, waiting for 2 minutes is going to give you most of the stuff you would need. So I don't think so we can complain too much right now, but let's see how long this is going to take. So I can see behind the scenes, it created a dashboard. It created a view for all habits, but I actually did not want it to do it this way. I wanted it to have it more like a main view and child views under it, but that's okay. And if something goes wrong, it'll tell me that something went wrong, but looks like it figured it out. And right now it's showing some additional information, but over time we might actually tweak it, improve it, how to show this information to our users, hoping that whatever we show is going to be helpful for us. But you can see right now is that it created an application, and I don't think so I like this particular theme as much. But let's just give it a try. Yeah, it's okay. But let me just I'm going to do the iterative prompting and say, create an earthy but modern theme for the app. And here you can see there are some options. We have an option called submit, where we try to auto detect your intent. Because now our AI also includes 2 different modes. One which is called generate, which allows you to create designs. And then I'm also going to show you this ask mode, where you can query the knowledge base or a help documentation. If you want to just understand how to do something, you don't want AI to do the actual design. You just want to find out how to do it. And we try to pull that information using AI and present it as part of your chat experience. So for now, I'm just going to say generate. And you can see now we're showing you where we are actually working. It's showing this little halo around this generating app. And let's see what it actually comes up with. Because I didn't specify anything. I just said create an earthy but modern theme. It's kind of fluffy. But I just created one just to see where it goes. And voila, it kind of tried to do a lot of things, and it says it failed to execute some of these commands. But let's just take a look at what's available. I go to my dashboard, go to my all habits page, and you can see that it actually went ahead and generated some of these images for us dynamically. It created the layouts. It created a settings page, and the settings page had the navigation and stuff and profile. And I'm pretty sure that if I ask it to generate this app again, it is most probably will figure it out and put it all correctly. But I can try it right now. I can just try it. I said make all the, well, let's just do a fresh one. I say, this is great. So create a landing page for this app and go ahead with sign in and sign up options. And AI is friendly with me because it might not care about, I'm just going to generate this and let's see what it does. And this is the stuff we are fine tuning, is to understand what the app hierarchy should look like, where it would make sense. But essentially you're able to see both the create new app experience from the dialogue itself, the ability to generate a theme on the fly. And now I'm iteratively tweaking my app by saying, okay, it did not have a certain view, so I want to add new views. I can actually select an element on screen, which would be a card, and say, generate me a new image. And it'll do all of those things in a scope. And that's something which we are kind of fine tuning and making it better. So it's saying, I'm going to implement a new landing page view. I'm setting it up as the application starting point. And it's trying to do some things for me. It's saying I'm going to customize the navigation bar. And that is what we feel the AI inside App Builder would do, is that yes, can you do this manually? Absolutely. That is what a visual builder will allow you to do. But with AI, we are pretty much skipping the need for you to go to different views of the application, copy something and paste it into some area, turn properties on and off. All of those things, we are hoping that our AI, as it gets more knowledgeable about our app model, will go ahead and toggle these things for you and generate these things for you, just in the interest of saving you time. But at any point, the difference between the AI solution we are providing and what's out there, it's going to use those component libraries capability built in, so that every time the code gets generated, all right, now it kind of created a landing page. Let's see what the app structure looks like. Okay, it put it under the dashboard, and these are things which we would really need to tweak. But it created a nice looking landing page, and it most probably it also has my login page. Yep, it did my login page. And it's already connected. The create new page, the create new account and the login page are connected. And of course, I can tell the AI to say, when I click login, go to this other page of mine. But that's not what I'm going to do right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do my all habits page, and I'm going to ask it to do something. I'm going to say on this particular page, I would say, let's just select this view. And when I'm selecting something on the canvas, you would see that in the AI area, it's automatically picking a context for my app. So I could say, add a new button to add habits and show this form as a dialogue. Let's see if it can figure that part out. So instead of me going to the toolbox, dragging a dialogue onto my design surface, I'm asking AI to do that. Let's see what it figures out. Hopefully it's going to operate in, okay, it's done. It added an add new habit button. I can use AI to tweak this button, or I can say I don't want it to look like this. I just want it to look like a normal button here. But you can see the more interesting part is there is a button added. There's an interaction added. And this is actually a bug right now. It's saying on click, trigger an add habit dialog. And if I look in on my design surface, anytime we add a component like a dialog, it adds it as an overlay. So you can see it created this dialog for me, but what it mistook was how these things are connected. But it's actually a small change. I can just say open, close, add habit dialog. And at this point, if I click on add a habit, the dialog is going to show. So all of this, as you can see, was done mostly through prompting. I did make a few tweaks here and there, but that pretty much explains how this thing works. And then just for, as the ending point, I'm just going to do something silly. I'm going to select this product card and say, make all the images watercolor style. And this is completely trivial, but I just wanted to show you that the image generation also works from this approach. And once this is done, I'm going to show you this one last thing where you can create designs based on image upload. So while this is going on, what I want to achieve right now and show off is that I have this page with this image of a page, and this is showing a settings page. It has a lot of expansion panels. It has a form inside these expansion panels. And this is one of the side effects of having an image, is that there are dynamic states. There are like content inside each of these expansion panels, which I'm not able to capture in an image. But if you think about an app modernization project where you're trying to recreate the UIs as quickly as possible, this might be a good solution for someone trying to speed up the generation of the UIs without ever needing to know how to do layouts in App Builder. But you can see this is actually doing it. It's just going through the whole process, and voila, it went ahead and created this watercolor style, completely unnecessary for what we are discussing, but it is able to do that and create this on the fly. So what I'm going to do is this final step, show off this image upload kind of an approach. So I go to this view here, and I'll go to my chat area and say add content based on the uploaded image. And I have not uploaded any image yet, so I'm going to attach it here. So click attach. The settings page I just showed you earlier, and let's see what it does. I say generate, and let's see what it does. And this would be the last thing I'm going to talk about with AI. I'm just prepping Constantine to be ready to transition to his presentation once I'm done with this. Right? So you can see this mostly as this image upload story as mostly as a time saver if you want to really speed up your efforts. I hope you're just as excited as I am with this particular effort, but let's see where it added it. It said it did it, so clearly it just forgot where to add this particular stuff, but let's just try it out. It did it. It just took a while to refresh, but let's see what it added. So it pretty much captured the whole expansion panel. It got the fields I had actually provided, and then it created all the other expansion panels which are required. You can see that it got the title, the subtitle, but it doesn't know what to put inside those expansion panels, and that is natural because of the nature of the image we captured. But with this approach, you can actually quickly go ahead and add more content. If you have screenshots of something, get it inside of the app builder. And the other effort we are doing with the AI is we try to make sure that these things in the outline are named appropriately. But even if they're not named correctly, guess what? You can use the AI to ask it to rename your components in a meaningful manner, which would match your the way in which you name things in your company. So with that, I'm pretty much at the end. I would like to kind of transition to Constantine to share what he can talk about in terms of Ignite UI.
George, thank you very much. Every time we do a webinar with you, it's the same story. You show all the cool stuff, and then I'm left to actually talk about the building blocks, right?
Well, without those building blocks, App Builder wouldn't exist. So we're in a good place.
True. True, but that's the flashy part, and AI. That's always something that catches everyone's attention, and it's always cool to see, right? So let me just I think I messed my windows here. Yep. So let's talk about the building blocks and let's talk about Ignite UI. And Ignite UI is, if you're already a user, you're most probably familiar, is a product family, and it covers all of the modern web frameworks that you can think of. So Angular, React, web standards, Blazor, it covers all. So what I'm going to start with is some overall things that not only we've got for 25.2, but also we have some upcoming ones by the end of the month. And then I'm going to dig deeper into some of the specific products and show you some stuff there. We have a large, nice blog about 25.2 with all of the things that have already come out, and you can go to it. I'm going to paste afterwards a link in the chat, and you can see in detail everything that we've put out. Because if I have to go through every single one of the items inside the blog, 30 minutes are not going to be enough. And really, it's not App Builder, so it's not that interesting in terms of demo, although I still think it's pretty neat. Anyway, so what I'm going to start with is something that is not very demoable, but it's very important in the product, and this is overall grid performance improvements. So one of the things we've always strived is not only to create beautiful looking components that actually show are very visually pleasing, but they also need to be very performant, and they need to be able to handle a large amounts of data. And so what that means is that we constantly circle back. We run our tests, we look at where we're at with all of the new features we've added to the components, and we reevaluate. Okay, how are we actually doing in terms of performance on the grids primarily, but also the charts and basically any component that is supposed to render data. And so for the grids, what we've already released actually in Ignite UI Angular 20.1 and also the latest patches in React Web Components in Blazor are improvements to sorting, group by, and by the end of the month, we're going to have some significant improvements in filtering. Okay, and our tests, by the way, we execute tests on 100,000 records and 1 million records. Okay, so we're not taking, we're actually not sparing the component. We try to throw as much as possible at the component. And so the tests right now show that actually, for example, sorting at the moment is 3 to 4 times faster on records above 100,000. That means a lot, right? So that still doesn't mean that sorting has been slow in the past. No, it hasn't. Actually, sorting is pretty fast, and you can try it, anytime you want, and you'll see that it looks almost instantaneous. But when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of records, you may actually see some slowdown. And so now we've made some significant improvements that in order for you to not see slowdown even in those scenarios, even going up to 1 million records. As I said, the same is the case for filtering by the end of the month. And group by has already been released. Group by improvements in terms of performance has already been released together with sorting. We also added some new features to those grids, okay? And by the way, before I show off the features, I should start by saying on the right here, I have the Ignite UI Angular landing page. And you will notice, if you've gone to this page before, that we actually have several large new examples or samples. And those are, immediately you see.
Hey, Constantine, sorry for interrupting.
Go
Are you
ahead.
sharing the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So it's just me.
Yes, we do see it.
Okay,
You
cool.
see it, right?
It's just wanted to make sure. Sorry about
Oh
that.
man, if I haven't been sharing it so far,
No,
that's
no.
gonna be
You are
really
sharing.
bad. Okay. You see on the left hand side the blog and on the right hand side the landing page, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so here on the right hand side, we have these brand new component samples that are actually live running on the product page. Okay, and what are these? ERP inventory, org chart, financial portfolio, sales dashboard, fleet management. Okay, so those are pretty large scenarios that actually show the different types of grids that we have. The ERP inventory is actually an example of our hierarchical grid. Okay, but what's the point of calling it hierarchical grid? Let's show some real scenario on how this is achieved and what this grid is actually useful for. The org chart is actually our tree grid, okay? Hierarchical homogeneous data. What is the best way to display it? Well, a tree grid. The financial portfolio one is actually a flat grid. And this one is with live data updates that are being pushed constantly. You may actually see some numbers changing here. And it shows a financial portfolio scenario. The sales dashboard one is a pivot grid, okay? And here in this one, we actually have pretty large amount of data dumped into the pivot grid. But basically this grid is, you let your end user slice and dice flat data in whatever vectors they want. And here it is brands by country, sales for brands by country, separated into overall sales and profit by quarters, okay? And last one, fleet management. Okay, immediately when you see it, you're going to be like, oh, okay, so this is again the hierarchical grid. Well, no, it's not. It's actually our what we call master detail grid. And the master detail grid allows you to show tabular representation of certain data. So in this case, it would be a fleet management application for all of the vehicles that our company owns. But underneath each record, you can render arbitrary templates where you show different visualizations for things that you want to expand in terms of details for the record. So in this case, there's actually a tabbed view inside here. And underneath the first tab, we have actual images of the vehicle. Then some details about, what horsepower it has, what is its mileage, how large the engine is, and so on and so forth. What is the color of the vehicle? But if we switch to the second tab, oh, okay, we have actual trip history, another tabular visualization of the trip history for this vehicle, and who used it, when did they use it, what was the trip, where did it start, where did it end. It also shows us a maintenance history for the vehicle, again, tabular representation. When I hit the cost, okay, I actually have charting representation of what this vehicle costs us, right? And then the last one for utilization is another charting visualization. So the master detail really lets you create whatever visualization you like, okay? And whatever fits perfectly your application scenario. Well, let's keep going down the page. Oh, we have another live running sample. I actually have it open separately here because it looks even nicer in full screen. But this we call a stream manager. This is actually a representation of our doc manager. If you're a fan of Twitch and and you're watching live streams, whenever you have time, you may notice that it looks a lot like the Twitch stream manager. Well, yes, we actually looked at the Twitch stream manager and we said, okay, we can build the same thing, but the layouting scenario will be with our doc manager, and it will allow us to actually modify the layout in whatever way we want, so that we represent our content in the best scenario that the current user wants to see it. and those layouts can be saved and loaded per user. Okay, and so in this case, I can change the visualization whatever way I want. And by the way, this is not just the doc manager. We see a lot of other components that we have within this sample. This is a list. These here are cards. This is a dialogue. Some buttons. Our navigation drawer, our nav bar, avatars, icons, and so on and so forth. I'm still not talking about this component because I'm going to move to it in just a second. All right. So yeah, I said, okay, I'm going to start talking about features and components. Let's move into this component. This is what we call our chat or AI chat component. Well, it can be used in any chat scenario, but it's also really good for AI chat. And by the way, what George showed you just now in App Builder with the chat for AI, the conversational experience, it's with this AI chat component that we have. So in this one, I'm going to say I really love your stream, but this is an auto reply because it's a mock scenario sample. But yeah, it works like any chat that you would imagine. All right. And so we've added this component as well as data range picker and tooltip to Ignite UI for web components, to Ignite UI React. And very soon, we're going to have it in Ignite UI for Blazor. But let's move back to, some other features. Okay. So our grid got cell merging. This is probably the only feature that we didn't have in our Ignite UI for Angular, React, Web Components, and Blazor Grid that we did have in jQuery. Okay, that's no longer the case. We have cell merging now in Angular. So, and by the way, there have been users who say, I need this feature in order to actually move my application from jQuery to React, let's say. And we said, okay, it's high time. We need to build it. So now we have cell merging in all of the modern grids. And another one that we did for this release and that it's already released is for column pinning, we actually made an update where you can now pin on the left and on the right simultaneously. Okay, so in this sample, okay, I want to have always visible the contact name, but I also want to see their phone number all the time. And then, maybe even the title should always be visible. You see, now I can pin both on left and right-hand side. May seem small, but it's actually a feature that a lot of people requested. Okay, so this one is also available across Angular, React, Web Components, and is very soon going to appear in Blazor. So going back to something that we did in terms of updates to React and Blazor, Tile Manager. Tile Manager was not a part of React and Blazor until recently, and now it is. So if you go to our React documentation, you can now see Tile Manager here as well. Okay, and so this component we did cover. Another one that we moved to React and Blazor is the mask input and the divider. Okay, and now I'm going to actually talk about some things that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, that are in the works and will be released by the end of November. And I will explain why. Now, one of those things is, well, Angular 21 is actually coming out on November 19th. And so in order for us to support Angular 21, we need to wait for it to be released first by the Angular team, and then we're going to push our 21 update. Okay, and for Angular 21, and by the way, I want to encourage everyone, those repositories on GitHub for our products are all open. Please go ahead and give us a star here. And this will actually give you insights into what updates we're doing whenever they happen, okay? Because you're going to see them as notifications in GitHub. But what another useful item of having our repository start or bookmark is if you're actually wondering about what we're working on currently, you can always go on our roadmap and you will see, okay? And you will see now that currently we're in milestone 40 or major version 21 that we're working on. It's due by the end of November, and it will include support for Angular 21. The AI chat component is also going to appear in Angular then. A PDF exporter feature for our grid, multiple entry points library refactoring. So what's this item? I'm actually going to talk about this one, okay? If you are already using our Angular product, you may actually know what this is, and you may know that we were missing it. But the thing is, now with 21, we're actually going to have it available. What does that mean? The library, the Ignite UI Angular library, is going to be split into 47 different entry points, one per each component that we have, one per each major component, actually, because directives, for example, would be a single entry point. But the point of this is we will now support code splitting for your application. So if you're actually using a lot of our components, you may have noticed that whenever you do your builds, even if your components are lazy loaded, our bundle gets bundled all into the first entry point that gets loaded. So with whichever component that uses Ignite UI for Angular comes first in the build, that is where the bundle for Ignite UI for Angular will end up. Now I'm going to run a quick build right here of one of our projects inside Ignite UI Angular, which actually we use this project to test lazy loading and to test tree shaking for the library. And I will show you the result of this build now. All right, so just for reference, I'm going to open the actual routing for this application that we have and the app components to show. So it is a test project. What it does is it has multiple views, one landing view, and then multiple other views, which are all lazy loaded and contain a different type of component that we have. So a chip, a button group, a form. This one actually has 5 or 6 different components because it's a whole form component. A stepper component, a grid, a hierarchical grid, and a pivot grid, okay? So from what you can see, we pretty much brought a very large percentage of the library inside this application. But we didn't end up with a ginormous bundle. Actually, our landing chunk is 430 kilobytes, which is 111 gzip, okay? So that's pretty lightweight, okay? This is the index, the landing page. Then we have multiple other lazy loaded components, each of which, you know, some are larger, some are smaller. So for example, pivot grid component is larger than, let's say, stepper, which is larger than the form components, and so on and so forth. But going back to what it was previously, this will all get bundled inside of here. If we brought a component in the index, it will all actually get rolled up inside of here. Now we have true lazy loading even for chunks, all right? And this is really huge for the library, okay? Because it's a massive performance improvement for any application and massive bundle size improvement for any application that you're building with Ignite UI Angular. All right, so that's one of the biggest items that I wanted to show. But then, since I'm on it and I'm showing certain items that we're working on, George talked to you a lot about AI, right? And what I want to do is I actually want to show you something with AI also, okay? And I'm in VS Code. So, by the way, let me just open up one new project here. Let me see if this is the one that I wanted. Just 1 second. Yeah, I'm gonna run this one to show you what it is. Open it up just to make sure it's all good. Okay. So yeah, I have an application here. And what I want to do in this application now is I want to use App Builder, actually, to add a new component to it. By the way, you see on the left the VS Code and on the right the running application, right?
Yes.
Just correct me if that's not the case. Right, so right here, I'm going to go into the chat settings, and I'm going to show you that when I select MCP servers, I have this App Builder MCP running, okay? So we don't even have a public preview of this yet, but this is an MCP server that provides the App Builder functionality for generating views and applications that George showed, but addressable directly through an agent, all right? And so what that means is, let me start a new chat here. What that means is that now in this agent, I can say, generate and add a registration form to this project using App Builder. Let's see what it does. So I haven't opened App Builder, but I say use App Builder. And by the way, do you see what it did? It said, oh, okay, you know what? I know that there is an endpoint on this MCP called generate App Builder view. Do you allow me to call it? And I say, yeah, go ahead. Oh, you know what? I picked the wrong project. Anyways. So by the way, in this project, I don't even have Ignite UI Angular added. It's basically very plain. Now it's working, it's working. By the way, I haven't called the MCP server in a while, so it may have been sleeping, which will cause it to actually fail. Okay, let's see. Error has occurred, yeah. Stop it, run it again. Let's see if that will wake it up. I'm giving a demo of something that's not even public preview, okay? So I should have taken the disclaimer that George took at the beginning. Some things may not work. Come on. George, we need this elevator music with all of these AI demos.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Working, 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 working. Oh, come on. I actually should have queried the server before the demo, because I really was saving it for last. I was like, yeah, I've tried this so many times. It works. Voila. Now our server is alive, apparently. It did return a response. But it's got to do a little bit more work so you can see the result. While we're doing this, I'm going to show you how we resize the React Tile Manager. Ah, full screen. Okay, it started returning some code. And by the way, there are Ignite UI for Angular components. And now it knows that it didn't have Ignite UI for Angular in the project, so it's going to install it. Now it updated the routing so that it will show the new registration component that was just returned by the MCP. And it's also adding some navigation inside the header, which is register. And did it update it already? Maybe not. Oh, it needed to rebuild. And voila, I have a registration page added to my application by App Builder, entirely using an agent. And that's what's coming, by the end of the year. That was everything from me. There may be a lot of questions, especially for the last part that I showed, but we're going to, we actually have a lot of people online from our side. So we're going to answer all of those questions. But if there is anything that any one of the panelists wants me to answer live, just let me know.
There was a question about Cloud Sonnet 4.5, Konstantin. So if you want to just mention something about this, but
what about it?
I see you're using Cloud Sonnet 4.5 in your chat. Will it matter what model we use?
Well, here, this one I left on auto. It actually decided to use Sonnet 4.5 because I was asking for code generation. So GitHub Copilot actually treats Claude Sonnet as the best model at the moment for code generation. Now, the code generation, the majority of it, as you see, happens through the App Builder MCP, but there is actually pieces that are then added on top of everything by Claude. So for example, installing the library because it's missing, this one was done by Claude. It wasn't done by the App Builder MCP. And also updating the routes and the header navigation was done by Claude. So about models in general, Claude at the moment is best for code, I think. That's an opinion. Quote me or don't quote me, whatever.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. GPT is best for documentation or any type of language content in general. And Gemini seems to be doing really good when generating markup. Not so good in code, not as good as Claude in code. Okay. I hope that kind of answers the question.
As most people get familiar with AI, they realize it's like caffeine. You need to figure out what is your right level of tolerance and who gives you the best dose.
All right. Any other question that you want me to answer online?
No, there's nothing in chat. Yeah, everything is clear.
Well, in that case, I want to thank everyone for attending this webinar. I hope that you like all of the things that we've released and that we have in the pipeline until the end of the year. And if there are any questions, you can always send us an inquiry or an email, but get in touch with us on Discord. We're available and we're always happy to talk about our products.
Super. And then as you're exploring AI inside of App Builder, every response in the chat area actually has a like, dislike option. So if you can actually give us feedback directly on the responses, it'll help us kind of fine tune the kind of responses we provide with AI. That's about it.
Thank you very much, everyone.